We are going to walk through a revolve as the main build feature for this Exploring Solids demo. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to start a new part. Okay. And like all the rest, this sketch is not particularly good. It's just a reference point somewhere to get started. And so we're just going to roll with it. So I'm going to start a new sketch on the right plane. And I wish that this stuff would, yeah, there we go, disappear. Sketch picture. I'm going to find the one I created for Revolve and place it in that sketch just for reference. Come on now. There we go. Okay. So you can see it's pretty bad. I am going to approximate the seat height at 18 inches from the ground. So that's going to be what I use first, just to give me some sense of scale. So we're going to 18 inches. Not too far off here. So if you double click on your sketch image, you are able to scale it either in the properties bar or just by dragging and adjusting. Oops. So we just want to approximate that 18 inches for a seat height for now, just to give me an idea. So for this one, I am going to start out again on the right plane. And I want to do maybe a couple different options. I'll start out with this one as a seating feature. Maybe it has something else on the opposite side, or maybe this is a display space or a seat, depending on how it needs to be used to support, the signage or brochures, documentation, or a seat. You could add another object here to be kind of a brochure display. But this is just the general size and scale I'm thinking of, so we're gonna roll with that. Starting on the right plane, I'm gonna sketch this as a couple of separate bodies. So I'm gonna start out just with the seat. And right now, starting at the ground plane, I'm just gonna sketch a line. So that's just L, shortcut for line. I do want to make sure that it is on the origin when I do that. And you can see I've just kind of matched that same scaling sketch that I used from before. So actually yeah, there we go. Okay, back in. So I'm just going to draw a simple shape. And this is seeming maybe a little too simple because I don't just want it to be like a wedge. But I do know the ground plane needs to be flat, sit on the ground plane. So I will click on that line, and then over in this panel, or by right-clicking on it, you can make horizontal or make vertical. So those are two super easy ways just to give it a little bit of definition so that when you do the next thing with it, it's not, buckled up or down. So we want that to be nice and flat. Now this one, we don't really want to be, it could be flat. We'll just leave it flat. I want a little more character. So you can see these not super straight lines. What I want to do is give it a little bit of an arc. So just using this as a way to control the arc, I'm going to say that is 85 degrees. So just a five degrees of angle there for a little guide curve that I want to create. So I'm going to use the spline in the sketch tool, and I'm going to draw it from that endpoint to this, and then escape. So now you can see it's created a nice closed contour. So I can do a couple of things with that, but right now I want to take a look at some of the control features for splines. So anytime you see that arrow and the spline adjustment, you can pull that and push that. There are going to be two adjustments, one at each end. So you can get a little more of what you're looking for. If you have something specific you would like to see, you can do that. Oh, I do see that somehow my sketch picture has maybe shifted, or maybe I just drew it really tall. So what I'm going to do is make sure that this brought back down here. I want this there. So the person's feet are on the ground. So this here, I just kind of overshot the ground, which is fine. But now I know I need to scale that up so it'll stay at that 18-inch mark for the seat height. So that's a little bit better. There we go. Okay, we'll exit that sketch and get back in the construction sketch. So you can see I've got a little bit of work to do to get it back out to where I had sketched the seating feature. Again, we're just gonna play around here. You can see I have a super sharp edge right there, which is not going to be very friendly, not very ergonomic for the knees of some poor person sitting on here. So I'm going to first see if we can make these tangent, just so I have a frame of reference. If I want to make some adjustments later, it's nice to have these reference points defined, so you could say, hey, I don't want it to be that angle. I want it 5 degrees less, 5 degrees more. That's somewhere to start. Another option would be, rather than a spline, which kind of gets a little bit, wiggly. It's a little more free flowing, but you can also do an arc. So tangent arc would be tangent to this, and then whatever the resulting curvature would be up at the top. You see, you don't have any spline controls, but what that does mean is a nice clean curve. It's a singular curve. It doesn't have any points where it is inflecting or deflecting to another direction. So when I'm building in solids, that's a really nice way. If you know you're going to keep it simple for now, just keep it simple and use that tangent arc tool. So see that. All right. Let's hide our sketches. Sometimes you kind of lose sight of whether it's a closed contour or not if you have a sketch image that's behind it. So we'll hide all. So hide all will hide any sketch that you're not currently working in. Or hide all types. That'll hide everything. So I think that's good. We will leave it there. I am going to define. Oops, going to define maybe the length of this seat front to back. So 25 inches, that seems all right, because I know I'm going to fillet this edge quite a bit. And then this one, maybe 19. I'll bring it in a little farther. So there we go. So what you need for a revolve, I'll bring this back so you can kind of see it, is you need to identify the axis you are going to revolve around. So I kept mine, on that y-axis is where I kind of sketched that center line. And you can use either a sketch line or you can create an axis to rotate things around. So a couple of options there. I am going to create an axis based on, I'm just going to hide this sketch 2. So I'm going to roll back sketch 2. Just going to select that original sketch in my reference, the reference sketch. I'm going to select that line. And then up in reference geometry, drop down that menu, and you can define an axis based on that line. So now it'll pop up as a blue axis, so you can tab over it to select it. And I'm going to use that moving forward for these revolve features. I don't want to edit the sketch plane. I just want to see it. So we've got this. We know it's a nice closed contour. I'm now going to select a revolved boss or base. Axis of revolution. You can see you can pick a line in that sketch. You can absolutely do that and see how it goes. Sometimes it gets a little bit fussy if the sketch represents both part of your geometry and the line that you want it to revolve around. So we'll see if it'll let us rebuild. Sketch is open, self-intersecting, or intersects with the center line. So that's exactly what it's telling us. Let's delete that. So we're going to define the axis of revolution as that axis 1. So you can select it right here. See that little dotted line that's showing us, not line 4, axis 1 right there. So that has fixed our first problem. You can take it either 180 degrees or 360 degrees. So you don't have to revolve all the way around. You can even do an increment. So you could do 22.5 degrees if you just want a wedge to revolve a wedge. Similarly, if you just want to revolve a wedge and you want to revolve it out equally 2 directions, you can do that. But for this, we are going to do single, and 360 degrees. So we'll have it go all the way around. No, not 360G, 360. So there we go. There is our first revolve. Something I learned earlier today, or was reminded of in class, I built the extruded boss demo and didn't save it. And then I walked to my desk and I sat down and SOLIDWORKS had crashed. So this is your friendly reminder to save as you are building. So I'm going to say boss, revolve, boss demo, and save it. Control S is the shortcut to save. So I encourage you to do that. All right, so we're not going to add any of those features yet. Similar, it looks like I need a backrest or something here. So I'm going to make that another revolve feature. You certainly could build it as a single revolve, the top and the bottom piece here. But a lot of times I want a little more flexibility. I want to be able to push and pull things. So if I can kind of break it down to a couple simple elements, especially for these early concepts, I like to do that. So I will kind of go in here, start a new sketch. Might seem like double work, but to me, having the flexibility to push and pull things around or hide things one at a time, display them in different colors really easily is well worth it. So I usually opt for that. So you can see I am overshooting and actually going all the way down to the origin for this. So I'm just going to make a kind of an interesting little backrest here. You can see my sketch is approximating what I have here. Not very well. And I first selected the tangent arc feature, but it seems like that's going to be a little fussy. So when you talk about tangency, what you want to understand, if you haven't used this widely in Rhino before, is how you can kind of plan what it's going to look like and how to define a tangency based on, some extra geometry. So right here, I'm almost looking at, look at this slope. Now imagine if starting at this point, if a line extruded straight, perpendicular to, that end here. So imagine if you have a line crossing this 90 degrees from perpendicular. No, this is not making a lot of sense. Maybe I'll just show you. You guys know what tangency is, right? So tangency just means it's going to continue this curve in there we go. There we go. Select those two. So I'll define an angle, say 135. And then I'm going to select these both. And this make tangent will appear. So this is the control function or the constraint display for a tangent constraint. So if it doesn't work out, you can delete it later. But right now, no matter where I drag this endpoint, there is a nice, smooth transition between this line at this angle and the curve that's represented here. So I can draw it way down here, and you can see after a while, it inflects the other direction. So it can maintain tangency, whether it's pointed upward or downward. So that constraint is super nice to have. There we go. And again, your spline will have different handles on each side. So you can kind of push and pull those however you would like. So we'll leave this as a spline for now. Then from there, going to come straight down. And you can decide at this point, this isn't vertical yet. You could either add a relation to make it vertical. You can do that either by right-clicking on it, make vertical, or in the properties manager over there. But if you don't want it to be vertical, say you want it to have, we'll leave it vertical for now, since it's I guess a backrest. You will want to make this part, since it is construction geometry, you'll want to indicate that here. So you're just saying, I just want to use that as a way to control the tangency. But give it a number so that if you want it to be a lower pitch or a higher pitch, later on you can do that. And then maybe we'll just say, I want to define this one. So I want to define how high of a peak that has. Maybe 9 inches, maybe 10 inches. And you really don't have to define all of these things. This is just something that you can do, you can choose to do. Can make some things easier, but in certainly exploration mode, these are all optional. So again, I'm going to drag this way down to the bottom here. It might be kind of nice to contour the back rather than have it be so straight. So yeah, we're going to do that. How about pop this up here, and I'm just going to drag these points around till I get something that I think looks somewhat friendly. And I will show you maybe a reason why you may or may not enjoy using splines on some of these simpler builds. Obviously, for surfacing design, you got to use splines just to get the curvature that you want. But for some of this simple stuff, I really prefer the tangent arc tools. Mouse and trackpad are getting a little glitchy for me. That's okay. All right, so now we've closed it off. And again, you'll want to make sure this is a closed contour, and mouse really hates me. You can see here, you can tab on and off of this selection in the sketch toolbar at the top, shaded sketch contours. That means when a contour is closed, it will shade it for you. You can tab that on and off, but it is super helpful. So I would suggest that you always keep that on. And if you know it's closed and it's not showing it, that could be why the shaded sketch contours is not on. So got this in place. Going to do another revolved boss. And it's picking line 3. It'll just pick something random in the sketch if you don't define it. It'll try. It'll do its best. But let's show all types. That includes axis. So when you hide all types, it hides everything but the sketch or the feature you're working on, so you can focus and really make those fine selections. Sometimes a point gets hidden or obscured. Let's show, and then that axis pops up down there. Axis of revolution, same is this one, and we're not going to merge the result because I want them to be separate bodies. So there is that one. And then quickly, I'm gonna do one more. Actually, what we could do in this second feature, because these are not really connected, this top, that's almost a dome. If they're not connected, you can do them in the same feature and they won't merge into a single body. So actually, I think I may do that. So let's take this to the top. We are going to define a height. 3 feet from the top of that, we'll have the peak, maybe 42 inches. I don't know. 3 feet might be a little much if we're trying to get out to that edge. So now let's go ahead and make a domed top. I'm thinking about this, and I probably want to use a shell feature. So I'm going to make this solid. I am going to use spline just to see if I can get something that I think looks nice. So there's a spline. I selected the spline and this horizontal line and made them tangent. So now at the top of that peak, it's going to be a nice, smooth round. If you do not do that, what can happen is you may have an inflection point, or it might just look a little bit pinchy or pointy. So let's kind of show you what that looks like. So I'm just going to go down here, make that horizontal. So essentially, I'm just trying to represent maybe a big umbrella shape there. Now you'll need to remember, if you don't want something to be revolved, like that just guideline to get us way up to the tippy top and give us a dimension there, you'll want it to right click it, make it construction geometry. So we have that. So now you get out of there. Now look, it does have a pointy dome. I don't really want a pointy dome. So you can right click, easily edit that sketch. And what I want to do is just make these tangent. So that line and this spline should be tangent, and it should update nicely. So now it's more of a dome. Whether or not you like that or want that, up to you. I don't really like how it ends so abruptly, so I'm going to add one more thing, and that is maybe a feature like this. So you can see even with that line tool and a couple of other things, you can make some semi-complex shapes. I'm going to use the trim entities tool to trim away this in here so it goes back to being a simple single contour. And see what that looks like. It's got a UFO sort of vibe. I'm not sure if I really like that, but for the purposes of this demo, we may just leave it. I don't know, is are UFO sightings a thing in Virginia Beach? I doubt it, but maybe. All right, so for shell feature, I'm gonna go underneath here, show a preview. I'll make that 0.75 inches thick. And since it's just that bottom, we're needing to shell, there it is. So hit the section view, just take a look at what's happening in there, just in the dome part. That's okay. I don't love it, but it's fine. So we'll see from our original sketch, that's kind of what's going on. And I probably want to give us some good support. So going to, from the top plane sketch, actually, how about let's create a plane right here. So anytime you have a nice flat surface or a nice flat, well, anything. So you can see this, because it was revolved, it's revolved 360 around. This essentially creates a nice new top plane, or could. So I have this selected, and if I click in reference geometry, you can see I can make a plane from this. It would be, I think, grayed out if I couldn't. So I'm going to create a new plane right here. And on that plane, create a sketch. And I'm just going to create a, maybe like a crosshairs support piece for the middle, just to show that I thought about something being held up. So hit the space bar again to sketch on that top, from the top view. And there's my reminder, save every 20 minutes. So I'm just going to use a square tool. The nice thing about the sketch, the trim entities, is even if you have something defined, so right now I'm going to, sketch a center line right in there, make it horizontal so that I know that the center of it is centered. So we'll make that 1.5 inches wide. I'm going to hide that construction line there. Now I'm going to trim away so that I want the edges of this little support piece to have that curvature to it, from the geometry below. So I'm going to trim away, and this is trim to closest. It's the one I use most often. And that's how we do it. Trim to closest, and you select essentially anything you don't want. You can just trim. Looks like it will trim my dimension out, which is okay because I can hit the S key again, easily add back a dimension. So point and a point, 1.5 inches. And I think I also want to make sure that it knows. No, that should be the midpoint. And right now, it seems like I could shift this anywhere. I don't really want that to be shifted. So right now you can see I'm hovering over that arc. And if I get it really close, a lot of times it'll automatically snap to being the midpoint. So you can check that. It seems like I might need to reestablish that as the midpoint. So I did need to reestablish that. So you can see if I drag this around, it'll move. So I'm not really centered. So I'll click that point again for my construction line. Click this again to make it a midpoint. Now, if you just look, we're just going to preview it. This is kind of in the middle. So I think that looks pretty good. We're going to extrude that this way. So if you watch the Extruded Boss video, this will be old news to you. That selected contours, make sure that one is selected. And it looks like, yeah, it looks like it's gonna work, okay? So I'm gonna look at the underside here, And I want that to end. I don't want it to shoot all the way through. So I'm going to do up to surface. It kind of already knows what I'm thinking. And I'm going to take it to that interior surface of that dome. I don't want to merge result because I think I might want to add one more. So we're going to look at the move body copies feature. Again, this is looking like a little bit of a silly UFO thing, not a cool wave beach thing, but bear with me. We're looking at tools right now, not so much execution of my vision. So let's do a move body copy. And again, we're looking to reference that axis that we created at the very beginning. So I'm gonna look right in here. We're going to rotate. So move body copy is in the features panel. It allows you to copy or move independently. You can do either or, so you don't have to copy, but I have copy selected. I would like to make one copy. I think we might have to select two. So it's doubling what we currently have. We're going to rotate it around that axis, and we're going to rotate it 90 degrees. So it should preview that for us. Let's see if we take it down to one copy. Okay, one copy. That'll do it. So now we have that right there. Decent. Okay. So let's go back to a little sketch with our little person. There they are. They're sitting. They're happy-ish. So I'm going to add a couple of detail features to make it look a little less UFO-like and strange. So I'm going to use a fillet tool and add a really nice big fillet here. I'm going to add maybe 3-inch fillet, 4-inch fillet. See what that does. Sure. And maybe this is a jellyfish of some sort. It's giving more mushroom right now, but I don't think there are any sea mushrooms, so we don't have to keep that thing. I think I can probably get most of these in a single fillet. So I'll select those edges and have them up to 6. If you hit multi-radius fillet, it'll dimension each of those separately, so you can easily go back later and make those updates. So I don't want the end one to be quite that extreme. Maybe I want this one to be larger. So you can edit those independently, both in this feature manager, and then also just by clicking on it, on that fillet, that dimension will pop up and you can change it easily without having to re-enter the whole feature. And that if you don't see that, it could be because your Instant 3D is turned off. So make sure that this is turned on in your features toolbar there to get access to that. So again, I think I want this to be filleted. Said fillet. There we go. Maybe 3 inches. That's way too much. 1.5. Okay. Now, this is somewhere, if we were going to move further into this does not look like a very ample seat, so I would need to make sure to check that. And you could do it a couple of different ways. You could sketch on here to get a good measurement. You can also use the evaluate measurement tool in that toolbar. I don't think we've done any of this yet, so this would be a great time to check back and forth between the two. See if it'll do a line, point to point or line to line. So right now it's showing some measurements, but I would like to have a point-to-point measurement. So you can click right in here. Point-to-point measurement is 8 inches, but that is not a very generous seat. So a couple of things could happen. You could make this a lot thinner in the middle, which might look a little more elegant, but depending on beach weather, I don't know. Maybe you don't want that to be too thin. I guess also if we're going to use this potentially as display area later on. So knowing that, I'm going to take this out quite a bit farther. So let's say we'll take that out to 40 inches, 36 inches. And you see it updates here. And then I can either keep the base there, see what it looks like. Yeah, that's not terrible. So now do this again. Oops, not mask properties, that's too much. Measure tool again. So point to point, we're going to click this circle here, the back of our seating area, and then not quite at the front edge, but close to the, hey, that's not That's not what we want. Yeah, so it's showing XYZ, but it's measuring right here. That obviously you can tell it's not really going to help us, is it? So a lot of times I will just use a sketch just to get an idea of the area I'm covering somewhere and do that. So convert entities, and this is a sketch I'm just going to delete, but I will have it in here just as long as I need it to check some reference measurements. And I've made these all horizontal, so right now I can check this one. If you select a line, you can see its length is shown down here. So that's only 13 inches. That's still not very generous for a seat. So one thing I could do is go and change this revolve a bit. You can see I haven't defined it, so I can just pull that in to get us a little more generous seating. If you wanted to, you could pull this in so we don't have it defined. So we could do that, but I think that seems a little bit strange and pinchy also. But you can make some creative decisions in here. See what you think. Yeah, that looks a little awkward. I don't love it. So I'm gonna bring that back out just a bit. Another thing you could do is bring this in just a bit. So the whole thing is pretty flexible. And let's see. Now we did that, we adjusted, the width of this top, and the top rebuilt just fine. So it didn't need our help in finding out where it was going or where it was supposed to be. So I think that was pretty successful. And then we can look at our measurement sketch again. It's gonna update to show us that length of the seat now that we've changed a couple things, and it's 18 inches. So that seems a lot more reasonable. So it's 18 inches off the ground and it's 18 inches to the back. So you could maybe sit a backpack and yourself on it. So that's a super quick revolve. And actually this doesn't have anything in terms of a potential display. But let's say we wanted to pitch this as, okay, maybe there are 3 of these together. Maybe one is for seating, one is for display, and then another I don't know, for maybe one for brochures and maybe one for like a large signage display of local businesses. So one thing we can do is add some of those features in here pretty quickly using move copy body to build a couple of features and then show all 3 in maybe a scene together. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna go, let's see, where do I want to start? Let's start again, sketch on the right plane. I'm going to sketch maybe a little display panel here. So maybe this has a little holder for it. Maybe, let's see. What do I want to do with that? I guess for now, maybe we'll roll with this and see where we can get. Now, this is really just to represent in 3D an idea that could be, taken further or kind of chucked. So we're going to extrude a boss right from the middle there. We're going to go blind, actually mid-plane. So if you select mid-plane, essentially the measurement you're going to put in now is the total width of the item, and it's going to center that on your sketch. So let's say I want that 18 inches side to side. That seems pretty good. I could even maybe go a little bit farther. Maybe it's 24 inches side to side. Okay, yeah. I don't want to merge results because I want to see how many of those, if that's a display board, how many of those could I fit all the way around this construction. And again, we're going to use, we can either use move copy body. Yeah, I think we'll just do that. Keep it simple for now. So move copy body, we are going to copy that little display panel and we're going to rotate it around, guessed it, axis 1. And a couple different things you can do here. You can define, translate or rotate. Okay. I do want to copy it. Axis 1. So you can copy it by a number of degrees. And for this one, let's see, you can kind of just push this up arrow until you can see. Now you see the problem we might have before was it was a little bit smaller. So it was 18 inches. So let's go back to that. Let's go 18 inches. Make sure these aren't going to fight for space. So 18 inches tall, still fighting for space a little. And that's okay, because we can have it shift out a little bit more from the bench. And these are not constrained, so I can just drag that around and see where it can go. I can even, drag that to the edge. I can see, well, it's still supported, it's still on that base. That's 18 inches, kind of out at that farther end. So maybe we'll go a little bit bigger, about 20 inches. Now we're getting into the, we're just tabbing things just slightly. Might be fun to do, might be annoying to do. But it does update, both of those since we're copying that body. There we go. So if you see something and you've changed it and it's not reflected in CAD, in SolidWorks, you can go, you can hit Control and B. So let's see, 22. Okay, it rebuilt it that time. Fine. It's gonna make a liar out of me. So now if I did want it to be supported or connected back here, I could play with that a little bit more. For now, I think we'll just leave it like this. But that move body copy tells me a couple of things. It tells me that really I'm not going to be able to fit more than 4 because it's so close to 90 degrees. I might as just keep it at 90. And then add 2 more. So you can continue that around. I don't think 4 is really enough. I was hoping for more like 6. So if that's the case, I probably need to make it a little bit smaller. How about try 16 inches? And maybe this is a couple, maybe it's, three different things displayed horizontally here. So if I wanted 6 things, it needs to be a 60-degree rotation. There we go. This is why I like, especially for early concept stuff, just keeping math really simple. So if you have 360 degrees to cover, it's going to take six rotations to do that in 60 degrees each. So you can kind of rough that out. So we're making 5 copies to end up with a total of 6. So that's kind of a little modular display there. And let's see, what else did we want to do? We wanted to make, maybe like bins or something. Okay, so these ones I'm going to group, and this is, once you get a couple of bodies up here, none of them are named, it gets a little confusing, or it can. So I'm going to group these together in a folder. So if you select all of these, you shift to select them all, add to new folder. I'm going to call those displays. And then you can put these in separate folders, but I'm just going to call this maybe the seating option. And then write all, so I know that it's all the other stuff. So displays, you can right click on that and hide bodies. Oh, except this one, the original boss extrude. I missed it. So you can drag and drop things pretty easily into these different folders. Control S to save. And maybe we'll just do one more little revolve with maybe a couple interesting things. Okay, one last one. I'll make this super quick and I'm not gonna have much to say about it. I'm just gonna do it. Can also do intersection curve. It's a new one, so I'll mention that. So you can select a face at intersection curve, and where that face intersects with the plane you are sketching on, it will create a line, and then you can use that to reference for your needs. Okay, maybe I want. So I'm going to revolve this and using that 60-degree reference as a something to shoot for. Stick with that same axis of revolution we've been using. And for direction 1, I'm going to go mid-plane. Oops, mid-plane. So that means my sketch is going to be centered on whatever the resulting body is and 60 degrees. So that will show me this right here. I do not want to merge the results. Thank you. I do talk to myself while I'm doing SolidWorks in my head, always. So I've tried to limit that slightly, but to not a great job here. So now, what if I wanted to make almost like a brochure, something right there. So I'm gonna use that shelf feature and it almost makes a little display basket. Again, I'm gonna use save, move copy body to take this and rotate it around the axis, 60 degrees each time. Actually, I'm not sure if I want 6 different bins, so you could try this out. You can make, 5 copies of that bin. You can also increase the distance between them, so you could go to 120 degrees and only copy it twice. And then have something that looks a little more like this, in case there was some other signage or something else that needed to go there. So that done, say we wanted just 3. I'm going to add those into a new folder and call it bins. Not sure what goes in those bins. So I think I now want to do some moving around of these parts and pieces. That move copy body is great for several different things, even just visualizing in SolidWorks your model in a couple of different ways. So I'm going to move body copy. You could either, let's just pick all of these. So these are all those base features that we created early on. Get over here. It can get a little tricky selecting all the parts. But once you've got those all selected, I have hit copy, and I'm just going to take them way over there and way over here. So you can define that a little more structuredly, but I'm not going to at this point. So just drop them somewhere. And actually, I think maybe this one is the one. Yeah, I want to take those displays with me over there as well. So that will be the displays. Now, what that does is it leaves everything in the same spot where I originally had it. So these bins, and we'll get through different, different options later for configurations and showing things in different ways. Right now, the bins are where I originally sketched them. So if I go back to these bins and try to edit them, the actual bins themselves are right where I left them, right where all those sketches exist. This move body copy just copies what I have and takes them somewhere else. So that's my preferred way to do this exploring and moving around, because all the original sketches are right alongside my stuff. So they're all in bins should you want them. So let's just call this display. No, not display. Bins, kiosk. Okay, and then let's show these displays. And then we're going to move and copy all of this. So you can also select, if you are more comfortable selecting over here in the feature manager or the bodies manager, sorry, rather than in the viewport, you can do that too. That's probably what I prefer, because you can see specifically what you have picked and what's working, what is not. So I'm going to copy all of those right there. Again, the original displays are right where I had them, right where I left them. So right there, you can see I kind of quickly have, three versions of the same thing. These have bins, these have some display boards. And I think for those display boards, I want to do one more thing. Just potentially a little annoying. So see my display board here. On several of the other concepts, I just did a split face and a little support backer piece. So I'm going to do that here as well. I just don't love it when things are floating in the air. I know this is just a concept. It really doesn't matter, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm just going to take a little circle, center it up on this display board by making that vertical. This doesn't need to be any particular size, but actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think maybe a rectangle seems a little more fitting. So we're gonna do that. You can really be flexible in how you do this. You can define a lot of things. You can leave a lot of things undefined. Especially at this stage in the game and just getting comfortable with SolidWorks, it is okay. So we are gonna define maybe just the width, 1.5 inches. So I'm going to extrude that, and you can see I have a couple options. Right now, it's just going to extrude it perpendicular to that sketch plane. If I want anything other than that, I certainly can define it. A lot of times for these early builds, I'll have something that's a horizontal sketch somewhere in here. Oh, I see I've sketched on the front plane. Let's see. See if I've got anything. I kind of want it to just be horizontal. Let's see. Another thing you can do is look around in these sketches. Probably have them hidden because I didn't want to look at all this stuff before. A lot of times there's geometry that you can reuse from that. So now I'm going to define. So this little arrow here is the direction of extrusion. So you can define that here. I don't want it to be mid-plane. What I want, actually, you still have the sketch open, so you can still drag around. Even though you're in this boss extrude feature, you're still able to do a couple of things in that sketch. Actually, maybe I do want to do a couple of things. So I am going to merge the result with that display panel. Okay. There we go. I do want it to be centered. It seems silly not to have it centered. So you can choose. There's an easier way to select that midpoint, but I'm not gonna go through that right now. Make coincident. And then make that the midpoint. Those of you who have Rhino experience are probably well aware of all the ways that this works in Rhino. It's pretty similar in SolidWorks as far as assigning constraints to things. So I have that little display support now. I don't know why it didn't take my advice on. Oh, I didn't do it. Okay, so because that was so high, it was overshooting this surface. So I wanted to actually end at that surface. So that was where I was trying to go with that. So have that surface be the end constraint. So now I think I can let that go. Is that supported? No, it is not. It's okay. So one last thing is sketching on this face. I'm going to offset entities. You guys know I like these little frames, for whatever reason, unnecessary, sure. I just like to see that there's some depth to stuff. So you can either do a cut extrude if you want it to be a little bit fancy, maybe just 1/2 inch. If you want to get really fancy, you can draft that extruded cut, and it gives a really nice little frame detail there. Again, you can roll up in the feature tree, and if you would want these to be curved, you certainly can. If you don't want that curve reflected in that cutaway, I'd make them smaller than your offset for that cut extrude so that it'll still be a nice square frame inside there. So either way, but now we've done all those additions. So we've merged this body, we've done a cut extrude. Now we're going to do a move body copy. and hopefully show you. Actually, now I'm remembering I said I wanted to have a couple of different displays on here. Um, so how about let me just make it, three. So I have my exterior little guide there. I'm going to select that chain and make it a construction geometry. I'm going to do three rectangles of the same size. So I'm going to draw three rectangles, kind of snapping it in place, and then drawing two lines here and selecting those, make those equal. And those are kind of now the bounding boxes. And we'll select three sides. Again, we're going to make those equal. So you can either right click, make them equal. So now, as we move those things around, hey, they should. Maybe I didn't make these equal. Let's do that. Make them equal. Okay. Now, as we adjust those dimensions, all those boxes stay the exact same. So because our offset over here was 2 inches, to keep things nice and consistent, maybe it's 1.5 inches. And we're going to make sure that those are construction lines. Seems like it knows my contours are there anyway, so maybe not necessary, but now I have 3 little frames for display information there. So all that being said, now our move body copy, when we go to do that, we'll have all those features represented there. So let's go ahead and show that feature. So all of those have a nice little set of 3 display areas. Similarly, if you map these around, so those are our original ones. They're back there where we left them, but that's the seating display. So yeah, you can go back and forth, update things as needed. Now, this is a little bit sketchy here because now you have a whole bunch of stuff over here. So that's your bins kiosk. I'm going to call that the display kiosk and just put it in a nice little folder so that we have it there. And then maybe I'll just call this seating kiosk instead, or just seating. Sure. So you should be able to drag these around if you want to just organize this a little bit more. So your original bins are hidden, original displays are hidden. So now just have the seating, the bins, and the display. That's maybe a little overboard, but because the revolves were so simple, I wanted to show you a little bit more about what the revolve feature and having an axis could do in relation to like that move copy body and how easy it is to update things. If you want to add complexity as you go, you certainly can, and SolidWorks should help you get that done pretty efficiently. So I'm just going to assign some colors and I'll be right back and then show you what that looks like. All right, so I'll show you this really quick. This is just a cool little color book. This is not pertinent to the boardwalk competition, but this is a super cool little dictionary of color combinations. So if I'm picking just some random colors, I like to flip to a page that I don't know, looks good to me in the moment and pick some colors from there, just to give it a little flavor in SolidWorks. So you guys can come check that out, or I'll bring it to class someday if that's helpful. But actually go in here. So I have the bodies colored, but I want these to look more like displays. So another thing you can do is right click and change the face color, not just the body color, but I like to display or change the face color so that you get credit for some of these, the geometry here. Let's just go ahead and do that, and then we'll take a final look with the display mode on. So there's that. Again, if you wanted to do maybe the interior of these is a different color, a color pop on the interior of something to call attention to it can be really nice. Maybe not necessary, but let's see. I'll show you that copy paste feature. So you can right click on anything you see here and copy appearance. So I'm going to copy the appearance of that black charcoal gray, what have you, and see if I like it in here and with a paste. I don't know. What do you guys think? It looks like something else is going on, so I guess maybe I might as well get credit for it. I don't know that I want to do the bottom because it seems like a place things could go get lost if they're dark in color, but we'll just go ahead and do this. Paste it for effect. About that. All right. And then maybe it's going to be really dark in here, so we can also select all these faces and make those a different color. Maybe a white or a very, very light blue, light teal. Mostly just want to call out that all of these are adjustable, and you should make use of that in SOLIDWORKS if you're sick of looking at gray. You can certainly change it up. So shadows and shaded mode, meh, not doing much for me. So yeah, there's some little bubbly fun kiosk or UFO or jellyfish shapes. So I'm gonna save out this screen grab and then upload this walkthrough for you guys. That is it.